All right, morning everyone. So we have the market where we were pulling down from the 19th, and we just been falling. And now we've gotten down to a basing area right now. We have had a lot of volatility in the futures market since it opened last night. Over 1,000-point swing back and forth, given a real good idea that we're going to have volatility like you haven't seen in quite a while. That's going to be happening today. So being said, be very careful on your entries, making sure they're about as perfect as you can get, because we are going to have the cycles that are going to be swinging from one side to the other, jerking you around really hard. So get into high probability setups. Do not just wing things in and out in order to be able to be successful on your plays off of it. We did see on Friday an unprecedented amount, a dark pool of activity coming through the network. Actually was an extra print than I have posted right here. 168 to close out Friday at the price point of 297.89. That's 168 prints that came through. Out of the 168 prints, about 36 of them were late prints that went from New York to London that came in for the transmissions off of Thursday. They've been setting this basing up basically as a pattern as of the close of Thursday into Friday, and that's what gave us the nice little range zone that we had on Friday. Now, we had a very large print, very unusual type of print come through at 1.1 billion right here at 290.63. This is where we're bouncing off of right now in pre-market. We're bouncing off of that massive print that came through on Friday. There's just one solid print on that. This is unusual. Usually we don't see the prints go more than a $500 million at the most. This is a very unusual print that came through. It was only a single print, but there was still one to be somewhat concerned that there was a massive amount of pressure that came through at that point for a potential pop. So we closed out Friday with about a half a dozen prints over here at 299.36 right into the last few minutes into the close over here, which is more or less our topping zone that we've had going into it. Like I said, we've had a crazy amount of traffic going on here, and we had an additional about 30 to 40 prints. I can't remember the exact number. I'd have to look it up again, but we had basically a couple dozen prints after the close of the pre-market come into at the 295.45 level, which is more or less kind of an average zone. It was kind of, they were bouncing a little bit in between, but if you average them all out, this is the price that we were looking at. 295.45 was where they were basically doing it. So we have a massive amount of accumulation pressure. Based off of the accumulation pressure, something will happen today. We will either massively pop or we're going to massively drop. The pressure is getting too tight for something not to happen. Now, I'm more or less looking for the bounce, and why I'm looking for the bounce is because we have a dramatic drop down. We've got history just repeats itself. When we get this overextended, we usually will recover a little bit. At least, the 23 to 38% ratio and stuff. Well, we already bounced Friday just off of consolidation, 23% off of our run from the start of the 19th of the drop. So all we got to do is just get past this 23% ratio, and it's game on to the 38 plus. This is all we've got to do. We've got more activity in this happening right now that we're trying to chisel away. And any type of major pullbacks that we have like this happening is actually a very good sign, because when you actually see these pops and drop pullbacks, this is actually giving us more accumulation pressure for a bigger push off of the move off of it. Now, I'm not saying that this is going to be the end. We're going back to where we were back from the 19th. By no means am I saying that. All I'm looking for is a nice quality bounce to the 306. That's all I'm looking for. And we've got a pattern that is setting up for this. And you're like, well, where do I see a pattern? We're still holding downtrend and stuff. Well, when you start looking at our actual move that we've actually made from our high to our low points, just in the last 48 hours of trading, what do we have right here? We have a bearish pattern that is setting up for a pop to this level to give us a pullback. This is a textbook classroom perfect picture play right here waiting to happen. And we're already leaving the C leg heading to D as I speak. So all we've got to do is just pop above this level. It's game on to D. And then you'll see a pullback of 38 to 61%, which will bring us back down, retesting this level. And that's going to be the decision if we're going to be able to go further back up to this major resistance level or up to the level of the secondary price target zone. But this could be very doable today. Getting this far up here, no, I'm not really looking for this much of a move today. Can happen because we've had so much crazy action in the futures market. But being said, this is more or less the big picture idea. I could be completely dead wrong, guys. This thing could be just coming up top end and then just do a complete plunge. But this is a bearish pattern. Everybody is so hell-bent that the market's going to go lower. Well, that's great. Let's have a bounce before we go lower. Make a hell of a lot more sense. They get what they want. They get their money that they make on the institution side, then bring the market right back down. And then we can start heading down to the 272 level that we talked about last week as being the 61% retrace. Because right now we're bouncing a 50% retracement right now off of the larger move in the last 2 years. We are also holding on the Qs the 200 daily average. We have a lot of stocks that are starting to already rebound a little bit inside of pre-market. So we should see a nice pushing before we get any more reversal back to the downside. And of course, as more doom and gloom comes out in the media, bearish patterns will play out and work big picture. But as day traders, we need to look at it as what we're going to be able to get off of it to continue pushing, or possibly as a short term, and I mean a very short term swing trade. So, guys that are in the options network that are playing this, look at scalping your options. Don't look at holding all the way to mature these things to premiums and stuff, because we wait all the way to Friday. You may be upside down in your options. Grab that extrinsic value as much as you can. Don't worry about the intrinsic value too much unless you're looking at a longer term hold. This, I don't believe, is the longer term hold position. This is just the more immediate bounce zone that we need to start looking at. And other things in the news we've got is Apple got a nice little upgrade from Oppenheimer, and they're pushing their zone up to a 320 PT. Okay, Apple has broke its downtrend that has been running off of for the last few days, and we're starting to push up into the pre-market hours. These are older levels, just need to get rid of them. Start looking for Apple to push up towards the 290 going in today. Let's probably get some stabilization. Borrowing if the market starts rejecting that 306 zone, we'll probably see Apple come back down a little bit. Apple gets above this 390, then it'll be able to get a little bit further upside move out of that. Twitter had some, I guess you could call this positive news. We do have Elliott Management that has acquired a large stake in the company. Okay, that's positive to help move it up. And their intention is to remove the CEO. Well, that's also somewhat positive, because if you pay attention too close to what Twitter's management has been for years, it's been pretty bad. So they really do need some fixing in the management side, and that would be able to give Twitter a fighting chance, because Twitter could have been another Facebook. It's just that their management has just not been that great to get them to that point. We have a nice pop over here inside of the pre-market session. We've got already a dip buy that's pushing it back up. I would look for a more or less a harmonic pattern for a bullish statement. So I'd like to see maybe a pullback at the open for a continuation pop off of that. So Twitter should have continuation flushing out as long as the market pushes up. We'll have continuation with it, but look for a pullback before we start seeing a long position off of it. Look for about a 38% or so pullback to 61 or something off of that area that we're currently trading at right now. Etsy, we've got a Citi that is maintaining a buy position, but they're raising their PT to 75. We're already got ourselves into a basic pattern here for a pullback. We've got the pullback in pre-market. We can start resetting, so look for a long position set up for a continuation push inside of Etsy. This isn't going to go to 75 today, but I mean, we could get a few points. This one does have a range, usually an average of about $3 per trading day on a given day. So you can probably get $1.50 out of it, even on a bad entry. So just more or less look for a good stabilization down here around this 57 level, and then look for taking a long position on it for a couple points on the upward movement. Western Digital. We've got an upgrade to a 73 PT off of this one. Same deal. We've got more or less a pattern developing, starting to get a nice push. Need to see a little bit more upward movement. Start looking at about 57, 80 or somewhere in this ballpark for a pullback, more or less at the open. I don't want to see it drop below 55. Look for a dip buying opportunity and continue pushing up with Western Digital. It's been beat down with the market. It's playing with the market pretty well. And we should see a little bit of a good 1.5 to 2 point ranges out of this one also. Bayou, we've got Morgan that has given it an overweight rating and 150 PT. This is really a nice push here. We've already got some pullback, but it's more of like an algo type movement. I'd like to see this thing kind of reset from where it kind of closed at Friday. Look for a little bit more of a pullback and then continuation push off of it. The 119 level is more or less where I'm looking for as the pullback basing before we have any more upside. You'll probably have some real issues if we can get it push up to about 125. You start looking for it to settle down. It would usually have some issues around that ballpark zone up there. TTD, and this thing's been a really strong beast lately. We've got Citi that is maintaining a neutral position, but what's making this one interesting is they just raised the PT to 280. Well, that's where we were pretty much into the close Friday, and we're pushing past that. So they're being real conservative off of this, but they did raise the PT target quite a bit more. The overall daily position that the TTT has is more or less a continuation push off of it. It's been very strong off of its earnings play. So I'd like to see a more continuation. I do think you're going to have some issues around the 300. Probably see some little bit of a pullback off of that. Once you can get past 300, and then you can have a more upside move. TTD has a massive range per given day, usually of about 10 to 20 points because the float is so small on that one. And so it has a very large range. So if you're a little bit new at trading, you may want to back off of this one, because if you're on the wrong side, it could really hurt pretty quickly. But if you're on the right side, this thing pays very well. So look for a good dip buy opportunity with this one. KPTI. Okay, we've got an inline results coming out on the phase 3. Off of their vaccine. Positive news off of it. This basically is more or less, usually these type of plays are more like a pop and fade, but being that we're in unusual times like this, I'd like to see this, as it's creating this bullish pattern, a pullback at the open to about $20. Look for a dip buying opportunity. At that point, you should start seeing more or less the pullback. Yeah, get the numbers exactly right, but in that ballpark, look for more or less a 50% pullback zone off of that room to the 61. Somewhere in this area, I'd like to see a pullback. That would give us a nice bullish pattern for a good dip buy for a continuation play off of this play on that one. And we got APDN. APDN, and we've got a coronavirus update on this one for the for a vaccine. This is more or less a pump and dump article that has come out for what they're doing, but because it is connected to the virus, this thing should stabilize here around the $5 zone and look for more curling. The way that they do this type of announcements and stuff, this is the usual, whatever's hot going on, we're going to make an announcement and get our stock up, and then it fades down. So this is one of these situations where it's just pop, fade, pop, fade, pop, fade. They're trying to keep the stock going and up because, you know, they're in a hot topic right now. If enough retail gets behind this thing, we can get this thing to chase up. The news alone is not that great, but because it's got the word of the virus inside of it, it's going to be enough to keep this thing somewhat stirred up. The liquidity in this thing on any given day is crap. So if you see your spreads being really bad, or you see the volume is under par, then just kind of stay away from it, because there are way better plays out there today. But this one does have a nice announcement with the compared to the other tickers. The rest of the tickers are playing mainly with the coronavirus news and stuff like that, or kind of like ones that happen a little bit further back. So they're just kind of continuing playing off of their previous news. This is just the most up-to-date one on there. Our biggest ones to be looking at is going to be like your APT. I mean, this is the one that's got some serious range in it. And you see how much this thing has just flew up in the recent days, and it's already massively done a massive pullback. So as the stirring of gloom and doom continues, expect this one as more or less a dip buy opportunity for this thing to start continuing back to its upside. It's coming down to a good basing zone right here. You're starting to get a nice pattern development that is starting to form off of this one here that can give you the nice push-pull action, more or less, for a continuation pop. So not saying this is really the best setup right this moment, but look at it as the potential that we've got something getting ready to start up here. $20 is kind of the key area right now. We go sub $20 is going to be real tough, but as long as we can hold the $20 range, we've got the capability of bringing this thing back, because you're at a good stabilization from the previous last few days of a hold. And because this thing is so connected to the virus and stuff, it has potential. As soon as we start getting more negative announcements that it's spreading and so on and so forth, this thing will have a chance to have another wave come into the actual play on it, on that. ROKU is going to be a real good one to kind of just keep an eye on. It's not really ready for a setup to really just start taking off, but we've got ROKU that has based very well from its earnings report down here in the 110 zone. So I'd like to actually see ROKU start to base for a bigger picture move. I think we've got ROKU kind of developing into a basing zone for a push back up to higher levels over time. It is very overextended on both directions over the multiple quarters it has, and I think we're coming down to a basing, because unless we wind up breaking the previous low over here right at 100, I think ROKU's got a good stabilization where we're going to start seeing some comeback off of it. I'm not saying this is going to be the day it's going to happen, but what I like about it is that when the market was continuing going down over the last few days, ROKU stabilized. And so this has given me an idea that we may have a swing opportunity coming into ROKU soon for a nice C to D leg pushing up to it. Not saying necessarily it's going to go as high as my chart's showing. It's just more or less something I just whipped together real quick. Need to analyze it a little bit closer, but I want to definitely keep it on a side chart to start looking for potential opportunity off of it. NVDA is one to kind of keep a real close eye on. NVIDIA is becoming a nice dip buy opportunity, and had showed a very strong strength all day Friday for a continuation push off of it. So I'd like to see a little bit more upside. The hourly is really good and clean with NVIDIA for continuation. We are coming up and bumping up against the 200 right now on NVIDIA on the hourly. We can get it past that level, and it's going to be game on for it also. But pay attention. We get any pulls in the market that can pull NVIDIA down, because the downside move, you can see NVIDIA follows the market. It used to follow it tick for tick, but in the last year, ever since the Bitcoin coin drop, it's kind of lost its little bit of thunder when it comes to actually following the market tick for tick. But it has since the this massive drop we had from the 19th has definitely been following the market pretty well, but this is probably going to be one of our stronger ones out there. It's going to recover. Also, Microsoft and Apple will be your other stronger stocks. They'll be recovering off of it, as people are going to consider them good dip buying opportunities. And Microsoft has been the leader of the more or less the indexes since the holidays, and it's been the top of the class across the board, with the most massive amount of percentage gains and everything that has been gaining off of what it is actually connected to the SPY directly. Of course, you got your crazy Tesla out there that you can still look at, one to play. Tesla's actually gotten itself into a nice zone for a nice potential push. It's coming up to the 50 on the hourly chart, so like to see Tesla starting to look for a continuation push to start creating a larger, bigger picture pattern that we can start playing. I think Tesla's coming down low enough at this point for us to start looking for potential movements to the high side. When the market recovers at all, this will help give Tesla a little bit more of a pop off of it. All right, so if y'all guys need anything, it says up in the Discord server. I'll be in there most of the morning. Y'all have a great, safe morning on trading.